You'll turn with me in your Bibles to Ezra chapter number 8. Ezra chapter number 8, and we'll begin in verse number 1. Ezra has been given the support of Artaxerxes, the king of Persia, and is getting ready to make his way back to Jerusalem from Babylon. And when we looked last week, seen that that support was very strong from the king. So much so that pretty much anybody was threatened that not only messed with Ezra, but messed with the work that was going on in Jerusalem. And so, they're rebuilding the city now. The temple has been reconstructed, but now they're trying to rebuild their city and establish that. And we come to Ezra chapter 8, and we'll begin in verse number 1. We're going to read the first 14 verses to begin with. Now, these are now the chief of their fathers, or these are the heads of the households. And this is the genealogy of them that went up with me from Babylon in the reign of Artaxerxes the king. Of the sons of Phinehas, Gershom. Of the sons of Ithamar, Daniel. Of the sons of David, Hattush. Of the sons of Shechaniah. Of the sons of Pharosh, Zechariah. And with him were reckoned by genealogy of the males 150. Of the sons of Pahath-Moab, Elihoenai, the son of Zariah, and with him 200 males. Of the sons of Shechaniah, the son of Jahaziel, and with him 300 males. Of the sons also of Adin, Ebed, the son of Jonathan, and with him 50 males. And of the sons of Elam, Jeshiah, the son of Athaliah, and with him 70 males. And of the sons of Shephatiah, Zebediah, the son of Michael, and with him 80 males. Of the sons of Joab, Obadiah, the son of Jehiel, and with him 218 males. And of the sons of Shelomith, the son of Josephiah, and with him 160 males. And of the sons of Bebai, Zechariah, the son of Bebai, and with him 28 males. And of the sons of Azgad, Jehohanan, the son of Hakatan, and with him 110 males. And of the last sons of Adonikam, whose names are these: Eliphelet, Jael, and Shemaiah, and with them 80 males. Of the sons also, Bigvai, Uthai, Zabud, and with them 70 males. Should have let y'all read those, shouldn't I? So again, these are the heads of their father's house, and the list includes those that these are those that are going back with Ezra to Jerusalem from Babylon, and so Ezra here begins to retell the account that was somewhat summarized in chapter 7 and verses 1 through 10. You know, there wasn't a whole lot to attract folks to Jerusalem at this point. And, this a new expedition. It wasn't like, they already had a chance to go, and they didn't go. So what is going to be the difference maker now? I mean, you would think that those that wanted to go would have gone. And so, this is when you have Ezra, who is a son of David at its head. You kind of maybe gain a little bit there. But anyway, so this is the second series of pilgrims that are going to carry with them a torch to rekindle the flames and devotion back to Jerusalem. And, it says there that the sons of Phinehas, Gershom, Ithamar, Daniel, David, and Haddish, those are most likely the prominent members of this entourage that is going to make its way back to Jerusalem. And these are folks that came from prominent families. And so just really a genealogy there, a list of families that are going. That Shechaniah, there are three of that name, and the second will be mentioned later on in chapter 8, and then a third, or later on here in chapter 8, the second is mentioned in verse number 5. Ezra chapter 10, verse 2 is where the third Shechaniah is in chapter 10, verse 2 is where the third Shechaniah is mentioned. But all different persons, but maybe as may be seen from their father's houses. But so it gives account there of male members of the groups, and there's quite a large number. To me, it is. It's not really when you consider the grand scheme of things, but something when you consider everybody total, somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 people going to be in the second group. And so, but let's get to what I feel like, into where more of the meat of this text is. Verse 15 says, "And I gathered them together to the river that runneth to Ahava, and there abode we in tents 3 days. And I viewed the people and the priests, and found there none of the sons of Levi." So he gathers them, Ezra gathers all the people there by the river, and no doubt Ezra is the one leading this group back. And so, in more than obviously we know Ezra was going to be used by God in a spiritual way. But he's kind of the commander-in-chief of this group. And so he is in charge, and he is going to lead this expedition. But it says that he found none of the sons of Levi there. But now look. He says, "I viewed the people and the priest, and found there none of the sons of Levi." Well, aren't the priests from the tribe of Levi? So what's the deal here? Anybody have any thoughts? This is the group that's going to be going with Ezra. People that were in positions that were not rightfully theirs. Anybody else? So the Levites are, when you read this, you have to understand that we often make that synonymous, right? We make priests and Levites one and the same. However, the Levites, when they're mentioned like this, are different from the priests. The priests come from one family. Just because you were of the tribe of Levi did not guarantee you to be a priest. And so the priest came from one family that was among the entire tribe of Levi. And they had to be descendants of who? Aaron. And so obviously, when we look at that, we have to understand that that's where specifically the priests were referred to as being from as descendants of Aaron, not necessarily just a part of the tribe of Levi. These were the essential workers for the system of temple worship that Ezra was to promote. And so, maybe, so you have some priests there, which is a good thing, but there's no Levites there. And maybe it's just because the Levites were just too comfortable in their condition and position there in Babylon to go back to Jerusalem. Maybe they were, because while they would not necessarily serve as priests, they would still serve in the duties and the work that involve around the temple. And so maybe they're not willing to go back to their ancestral temple duties that put them under the authority of the priest. Maybe that's why they don't want to go back. They don't want to be put in that position. They don't want to serve under that. But whatever the reason was, Ezra has everything that he needs except for the men. He's got the money. The king's provided that. He's got the support that the king's provided. And so Ezra has everything that he needs, the money, the authority, but he does not have the men. And so we get to verse 16 through verse 20. Then sent I, that's Ezra, he sent for Eleazar, for Ariel, for Shemaiah, and for Elnathan, and for Jarib, and for Elnathan, and for Nathan, and for Zechariah, and for Meshullam, chief men, also for Jairib, and for Elnathan, men of understanding. And I sent them with commandment unto Iddo, the chief at the place Cassiphia. And I told them what they should say unto Iddo, and to his brethren the Nethinims at the place Cassiphia, that they should bring unto us ministers for the house of our God. And by the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of understanding of the sons of Mahli, the son of Levi, the son of Israel, and Sherebiah, with his sons and his brethren 18. And Hashabiah, and with him Jeshiah, of the sons of Merari, his brethren, or Merari, his brethren, their sons 20. Also of the Nethinims, whom David and the princes had appointed for the service of the Levites, 220 Nethinims. Of all them were expressed by name. So Ezra gathers the group there. He looks among the people that are there and he realizes, hey, we're lacking, right? We're missing folks to work at the temple. And so he gathers a group of men together and he gives them a command. And so he sends back to Babylon the command for Levites to come and join the work in Jerusalem. He's not okay with the failure of the Levites joining in and coming back with them, but he appeals for help. And Ezra planned very carefully for this recruitment effort. He specifically chose 9 leaders to go back and to recruit these Levites to come. That's when you're recruiting people to to do something, it's important that you have the right people to go recruit the right people. Amen? And so Ezra is very strategic in this. He's very, it's well thought out. And so he sends 9 leaders and 2 men of understanding to go back and to make this appeal as persuasive as possible. And then he carefully instructed them in what to do, what they should say. And he directed them specifically as to whom they should make the appeal to. Who were they to make this appeal to? I do. I do. Or Ido, and his brethren. And so, as we see here, that obviously the hand of God was upon these efforts. Because it worked. It was successful. And, I believe when, and this is something that should be the case in everything that we do, especially when we're doing it for the Lord. Again, Ezra planned, right? Obviously, God laid it on Ezra's heart to make sure that you get some Levites to come with you. We need temple workers. And so Ezra planned, and God, I believe, blessed that plan. And then whenever you put that plan into action, guess what? You have to trust God to bless the recruitment efforts, as Ezra did here. And so God's hand was on all of this. And so it says that the men responded to the call, and they led a delegation of Levites that would come and join the journey back. Verse 21 through 23, then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might afflict ourselves before our God, to seek of him a right way for us, and for our little ones, and for all our substance. For I was ashamed to require of the king a band of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy in the way, because we had spoken unto the king, saying, the hand of our God is upon all them for good that seek him, but his power and his wrath is against all them that forsake him. So we fasted and besought our God for this, and he was entreated of us. This is an interesting few verses here, in my opinion. Ezra, everything's going well, right? I mean, I don't know how much better you can expect it to go, right? The king, you got Artaxerxes, who is in an authoritative way financially supporting the area they were lacking in, and having Levites to go back with them has now been taken care of. And so God's blessing them, and yet there's still something that's bothering Ezra. What is it? What's he afraid of?
Possible thugs and others along the way that might attack him or
Yeah.
take advantage of him.
He's concerned because now they're taking a lot of stuff back with them too, right? They've got a lot of money, they've got a lot of gold, they've got a lot of supplies, and so Ezra is a little bit concerned about this. And so what does Ezra do? Well, Ezra, he proclaimed that we need to, he proclaimed a fast, proclaimed that they needed to humble themselves before God. And so because Ezra understood the spiritual power of fasting as a demonstration of single-minded devotion to God and his cause, and so he called for this fast, and guess what? He sees his prayer answered. He says to, get back to it. So I proclaim fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might afflict ourselves before God, to seek him for what? Of a right way for us and for our little ones and for all our substance. Literally a straight way. We want this to be, because obviously there's going to be women and children with them too. We see the men that are coming, but they've got families that are going to be traveling, and so he wants this whole thing to be as smooth as possible. We want to get from Babylon to Jerusalem without any conflict, without any trouble, without any problems. And so literally that's what he's praying for. Whenever he says to seek from him the right way, that is what he wants. A way that is unimpeded by obstacles and dangers. But I find it interesting, not that he's concerned about that. I think that's rightful for him to be concerned. But verse 22, he says, "For I was ashamed to require of the king a band of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy in the way." Why? Yeah. Ezra thinks, he's thinking about this, and now, for a lot of people, if we were to, when we get in those situations and we're afraid to ask for help, or we're ashamed, if we read it that way, to ask for help, why are we ashamed to ask for help? Because it means you're not dependent. A lot of times it's pride, though, isn't it? We won't ask people for help whenever we need it because we're sometimes prideful. We don't. It almost makes us appear weak or less than if we have to ask somebody for help. And that's the truth in any situation of life. I don't care what area it is. We're often, when we get to a point where we need help, whether it's financially, whether it's socially, whether it's emotionally, whether it's at our job, whether it's in our marriage, or whether it's, again, spiritually, we're afraid to ask for help, or we're ashamed to ask for help because it makes us feel weak. Well, let me just tell you, Ezra was not ashamed to ask for help because he was afraid that it would make him look weak. Ezra's whole reason for being ashamed to go and ask the king for this type of service is because he didn't want his God to appear weak. He didn't want all these things. I mean, when we look at this and Ezra had previously expressed great confidence, right? I mean, and we see it right here that he tells us right here. He says, "I was ashamed to require of the king a band of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy in the way." Why? Because we had spoken unto the king, and this is what we said to the king: "The hand of our God is upon all them for good that seek him, but his power and his wrath is against all them that forsake him." Ezra didn't want to seem like he was contradicting himself, and he didn't want to seem like he didn't have confidence in his God. He doesn't want to contradict these in asking the king for this escort. But the reality is they needed protection. They needed protection. Why? Because the danger was real. There was a constant threat of robbers and of bandits. And again, especially when you consider the fact they're going to be carrying so many valuables with them. And yet, because their dependence on God is expressed through prayer and fasting, God protected them. And so what did they do?
Sometimes we don't trust that we know God will protect us, but then we overthink it.
Yeah.
We think they're gonna say this if this happens.
Right.
Anyway, that's what I thought he was trying to say. What would the king think? And I said our God is with you. God is with you. They come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's where Ezra's at. I think he's just concerned about the contradiction. So what do they do? It says, so we fasted and besought our God for this, and he was entreated of us. So, in other words, we went to God, and what did God do? He took care of us. That's right. That's right. You know, and so there's also a little bit. One commentator made this note that there's an added interest in this, in the fact that Nehemiah, in his day, would see the matter a little bit differently. Nehemiah would accept a military escort as part of God's bounty, and you know, that's a reference to Nehemiah chapter number 2. So interesting in seeing a contrast there between Ezra and Nehemiah even, and where they are. And so, verse number 24.
Brother Jerry,
Yes, sir.
this may be totally out of line, but might take just a minute to develop this thought.
Mm-hmm.
There was this gentleman who believed in God, and he was the authorities had issued a weather alert saying that there's going to be a massive flood, and this gentleman decided to stay at home in spite of the fact of being warned about the floods and the tornadoes, and that the authorities had issued an evacuation, but he decided to stay at home. And when the water started rising up, the fire department had sent out specialized vehicles that could get through high water, and they were sounding out the alarm, you know, saying if there's anyone here at the house, you know, we would like for you to come on board, you know, so you'll be safe. And the gentleman said, no, the Lord's going to look after me. And so pretty soon, the water got up a little bit higher, and the boat came along, and the gentleman denied any help or assistance and said, no, sir, the Lord's going to help me. Get on top of the house, and by that time, a helicopter came over and asked him to do a line down or a rope down to him, or a ladder. He refused to get on the ladder. Well, story goes, the man eventually drowned, and in heaven he asked the Lord, why didn't you help me? He said, well, I sent you a fire,
Yeah.
rescue you, and the helicopter.
Weather warning, all kinds of stuff.
So, I don't know if that ties in.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
at all, but this-
Yeah, I mean, the Lord, you know, and that's it. I mean, the Lord sometimes will, you know, he uses people to help us in situations, no doubt. You know, and I think that we just have to be mindful of that and open to however God is willing to protect us, provide for us. You know, I think there's obviously, I believe God has placed people in my life and has put them there to help me at times of need. And you know, and so you have a choice. You can reject His strategic placing of people and using people, or you can continue to try to do it on your own and get nowhere if you want to. That's our problem. Is we want it, and we want it now. So, verse 24 through verse number 30 says, then I separated 12 of the chief priests, Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and 10 of their brethren with them, and weighed unto them the silver and the gold, and the vessels, even the offering of the house of our God, which the king and his counselors and his lords and all Israel their present had offered. I even weighed unto their hand 650 talents of silver, and silver vessels 100 talents, and of gold 100 talents, also 20 basins of gold of 1,000 drams, and 2 vessels of fine copper, precious as gold. And I said unto them, You are holy unto the Lord. The vessels are holy also. And the silver and the gold are a freewill offering unto the Lord God of your fathers. Watch ye and keep them until you weigh them before the chief of the priests and the Levites, and chief of the fathers of Israel at Jerusalem, in the chambers of the house of the Lord. So took the priests and the Levites the weight of the silver and the gold and the vessels to bring them to Jerusalem unto the house of our God. So Ezra, he takes and divides the valuable things that they have, and he divides them among the leaders of the priests and makes them each responsible for a portion. And they're responsible to watch and keep these things until they arrive in Jerusalem. In other words, these are your responsibility. And when they get to Jerusalem, they will have to deliver them to the leaders of the priests and the Levites there. And, when you look into, and I'm not going to go into every detail of everything that they were given and responsible for. However, when you do a little research, you'll find out that this was millions of dollars worth of items, worth of material things. And, and so, this is from the king of Persia to support the ongoing work there. And this had to, the fact that the priests and the Levites took this willingly had to take some measure of faith on their part. Because, let's be honest, what does it make them? They're responsible for it. But if somebody's going to rob them and kill them on the way there, they're targets. Right? That's who has it. They're targets for violence and of robbers or bandits. And so they received this responsibility and stewardship. And so this is a display of faith on their part. To say, you know what, yes, we'll take it. We understand the responsibility. We understand the duties that come along with it. And, listen, you've got to watch for thieves and robbers on the way there. But you also better make sure that nobody within the camp is corrupt either. Right? That's a big responsibility. I don't know that those folks got much sleep in that 4-month journey that they were going to take from Babylon to Jerusalem. That's a long time to be responsible for that stuff. And so they had to display some significant faith there as well. Verse 31. Yes. So as it's distributed here, it's weighed, it's measured, it's counted for. And so whenever they get to Jerusalem, Ezra says, listen, you're responsible for it from now until it's checked in. So it's not a pass this off to somebody else along the way. You get it for this first half and you get it for the second half. No, it's yours from now until it's checked in. Verse 31, 32. Then we departed from the river of Ahava on the 12th day of the first month to go into Jerusalem. And the hand of our God was upon us. And he delivered us from the hand of the enemy and of such as lay in wait by the way. And when we came to Jerusalem and abode there 3 days. So Ezra repeated what has now become a familiar phrase from Ezra. What was that phrase? What is that phrase? Yeah. The hand of God was upon us. God's hand was absolutely upon them to protect them, to guide them, to bless them. And so it says we came to Jerusalem, which again ended, this ends the 4-month journey from Babylon to Jerusalem. And they are now in the promised land that was promised to their ancestors. I'm sure that they got there and it was a sigh of relief. I'm sure that it was a moment of just joy. And so they've arrived. God has protected them. 4 months journey, and they're in Jerusalem. Verse 33 and verse 34. Now on the 4th day was the silver and the gold and the vessels weighed in the house of our God by the hand of Meremoth, the son of Uriah the priest, and with him was Eleazar, the son of Phinehas, and with them was Jozabad, the son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, the son of Binui, however you want to say that one, Levites, by number and by weight of everyone, and all the weight was written at that time. And so again, this is proper accounting as they bring the stuff in and that had been sent from Babylon, and I would say we might look at that and maybe they did too, and I think you have to really kind of look at it. I don't know that Ezra would have chosen these men to be responsible for this stuff if he didn't trust them. Right? So I don't know that when Ezra said, you're responsible for it now after we've weighed it, you're responsible for it until it gets back and it is weighed. We're not doing that to try to show that you didn't steal anything. And I know that this kind of, it overlaps a little bit. It's not as much to, I'm trying to think how to word it. I would say it's more so to prove their integrity than to disprove it, if that makes sense. This is not, Ezra wasn't setting out to try to be like, hey, I got you. That's not what that was for. I believe the purpose was to try to prove their integrity to the people. That, they didn't take anything. These are folks that are trustworthy. You can trust them. And so it says all the weight was written down at that time. And again, just careful accounting, fitting for good stewardship and precious things there. Verse number 35. Also the children of those that had been carried away, which were come out of the captivity, offered burnt offerings unto the God of Israel. 12 bullocks for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 lambs, 12 he-goats for a sin offering. All this was a burnt offering unto the Lord. So these burnt offerings are to propitiate for general sin and to show dedication to the Lord. And when they would offer this type of offering, the entire animal was to be burnt. This was not just parts or pieces. The entire animal was burnt as a sacrifice to God. And so 12 bulls for all of Israel. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, how even though there were only Judah and Benjamin, they still offered for everybody, right? They didn't just, even though there were tribes that were not present, they still recognized them in Israel as a nation, that there's 12 tribes. They've never, I believe still to this day, the nation of Israel is all about 12 tribes. That's their heritage. That's where it's from, and so the 70 lambs. I'll be honest with you, I don't know, the reason for that offering specifically, but 70 is a perfect number. There's some connection there somewhere, I'm sure, but the sin offering was made mostly with the idea of purification and for specific acts of transgression and taking both sacrifices together, the burnt and the sin offerings. They were clearly addressing the problem of what? Sin. That's their purpose behind this. Verse number 36. And they delivered the king's commission unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors on this side of the river, and they furthered the people and the house of God. So now they've gotten there, they've arrived, they've delivered all the stuff that was sent with them, they've settled down, they've made some sin offerings and other offerings. And so now they go and they deliver the king's orders to those that fall directly up underneath the king on this side of the river. And so, this would have been the commands that have been specifically given, that we've read about, that were specifically given to Ezra. The documents that accredited Ezra as the one who is authorized to administer the Jewish law among his countrymen, and as well as in various regions of that area. And so I love the fact that it says they gave support to the people and the house of God. This is, when you look at all of this, it reminds us of the greater purpose of Ezra's expedition. In the next two chapters, if you've read ahead, or maybe you're familiar with it already, but Ezra will administer some strict correction as a reformer. But understand that Ezra's purpose for coming was not strictly to be, or primarily to be, a disciplinarian. That was not why he primarily came, but he came to support the people in the house of God. When did he deal with problems, and when did he deal with sin and compromise? When it was necessary to deal with it. And so obviously, in order for him to do what he was sent there to do, sometimes those things have to happen, right? That's just like any kind of discipline. It's no fun when you have to discipline somebody. It's no fun when you have to make a correction. I don't care what that looks like. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. However, sometimes it's necessary, right? In order for the greater good to carry out, and for the things that need to happen, it's needed. And so we'll see that in the coming chapters of Ezra, in these closing chapters, chapter 9 and chapter 10. Yeah, I think it definitely gave him somebody that he knew would understand the responsibility that comes along with that, and the need for integrity. You start talking about carrying that much, and these are the people that are going to be responsible for it in the long run anyway, right? Because once all that material gets put into the temple and it's stored there, who's responsible for it? The priests and the Levites. And so I definitely think that had something to do with why he wanted to ensure that they had, because obviously they have some there, but I think he knew that they would need more, and that he needed some for this journey to get back. So they have, I believe that and I've mentioned this before, that I believe that the Ark of the Covenant is somewhere over there. And I believe that somebody knows where it's at, but they're not going to say it until they're ready to pull it out and put it where they want it, which is in the Holy of Holies in the third temple. I don't know about a lot of the other. They have made new furniture. When I was over there, they had a huge golden candlestick that was on display. And it was kind of interesting, because one night when we got to Jerusalem, we went down to the old city to where the Wailing Wall is, and you know, it was at nighttime, and so we walked down the street, and you know, there's a big difference when you go from the newer part of Jerusalem into the old city. Just the feeling changes, just to be honest. And so, you know, it's dark. It's obviously somewhere I'm not familiar with, and so I'm on a little bit higher alert than maybe some others. I don't know, but I don't know how they were feeling. We didn't discuss that, but anyway, we walked through, and it was up on kind of a wall, if you will, and it was enclosed in this big glass case and lit up. I mean, it was beautiful. And so I don't know if it was the next day or the day after that we, as part of our tour, went by where that was, and it was gone. And I was like, I asked somebody else, because nobody else seemed to be talking about it, and I said, wasn't there a giant candlestick right there in a case just 2 days ago or a day ago? And they were like, yeah. I was like, well, where's it at now? I don't know if they just decided it was time to move it. I don't know, but it was almost like overnight, literally, it was gone. I don't think it was stolen. I don't think anybody's going to be able to steal that, but they have, I believe, everything that they need whenever as far as construction of the temple, to begin that construction and to put in there. But as far as original articles and things of that nature, outside of the Ark of the Covenant, I don't know that there is anything original left.
You know that holy diamond, you're supposed to be the largest diamond in the world. That thing is buried every night. Down in the ground. I think it's at the Smithsonian, I'm not sure, but I've seen that thing. And it's in a glass thing, and they let it down. It knew it.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that it will be interesting whenever that construction begins. I follow the Temple Institute page on Facebook, and they're always posting stuff, and you just look at it and you're like, yeah, they're ready, but obviously they're waiting on the timing to be ready, and I believe God will orchestrate that whenever it is time. But those red heifers are a valuable piece of the whole puzzle, and so. I knew that there was one that had been cut from the herd. And so I think there was 5 that they shipped over originally. Yeah, I don't know what their process is for that, but I think what they're trying to do is get to the point where they can have those purebred red heifers there and then begin to start breeding them eventually. I think it's 2 as far as what they need for sacrifice. But I think they want to, because their plan is to continue to be able to get back to what they used to do. And so they don't have that right now. So. Yeah, well, they didn't always burn the whole thing, That's why there was some controversy over eating meat that was meant to be offered as a sacrifice. Somebody somewhere said the same thing. That's a waste of a good cut of meat right there. No, wasn't Jerry. Jerry wasn't there, but maybe some of my ancestors. I don't know. Exactly. A lot of your Jews, true, non-converted Jews, do not believe that Messiah has come yet.
Is that what they're praying at the wall?
Yes. Yes. I don't know, but the fact that he's from America is very interesting to me. Very intriguing. Yeah. They actually came from Texas. What's that? I don't. You gotta be pure bred red heifers. That means not one hair can be white. No, no. Ain't none of those raised down in Webster. Yes. Yeah. Texas. Yeah. Yeah. You ain't been working on that, Brother Carl? You ain't been working on getting, purebred red heifers out there? Yeah, that's what I thought they were, was Angus, but. Yeah. Yeah. Feel free to stick around after service for a free cattle orientation and information. Miss Wanda will be teaching classes on. In fact, I may ask her next Wednesday when I'm not this coming Wednesday, but the next Wednesday when she might just do a cow class for y'all. That sounds like something a sister would say. Yep. Anybody else have anything tonight?